I'm supposed to ask, is anyone here for the first time? Welcome. Hare Krishna. So you may not know this song if you're here for the first time. This is a song that our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, would always sing at the beginning of the classes to kind of set the mood of Vrindavan. And it was written by his spiritual master's father, Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I'll just run through the words real quick. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava is another way of saying Radha Krishna, the figures on the altar. Radha and Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his internal pleasure potency. Kunja Bihari, Radha and Madhava who enjoy in the groves and idyllic garden spots of Vrindavan, his hometown. Brajajana, how's it go? Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giribharidhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha. Vallabha means very dear, and the Gopi Janas are just the milkmaids, his friends in Vrindavan, girlfriends in Vrindavan, if you will. Gopi Jana Vallabha, beloveds, Girivardhari. Now the Girivardhari is a very interesting name because this whole temple and this, what we call a yatra, temple in the grounds, is named after a certain pastime that Krishna performed, in which he lifted a hill and protected his whole community, the cows and all of his friends and parents and everybody, from a huge storm that was sent by this angry demigod. And so in each corner of this temple, you'll see a nice little sculpture commemorating that. There's Girivardhari. Girivardhari is the best of hills, Govardhan, and he's lifting it up, Dhari. So that's why the name of this deity is Giridhari. He's lifting Govardhan. So that's Yashoda Nandana. Yashoda is his mother, and Nandana means beloved son. So he's the beloved son of his mother, Yashoda. Braja Jana Ranjana. He delights all the residents of Vrindavan, of his hometown, with his pastimes and his loving exchanges. And Yamuna Tiravanachari. He performs pastimes in the forest on the bank of this idyllic river called Jamuna, which flows right through Vrindavan. And if you go to the present-day Vrindavan, you'll see these places scattered around. So we're going to sing this song now just to set the mood, and most of you know it. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today, I'd like to share with you a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita, as it is. The Bhagavad Gita is the song of God. That's what Bhagavad Gita means. And this Bhagavad Gita is also known as the Gita Upanishad. Gita Upanishad indicates that it's a summary of the wisdom contained in all the Upanishads, which are said to be the crown jewels of all the Vedas, deeply philosophical, and also there's a good number of them which talk about Krishna. So this verse that I'm going to share, and the kind of complementary verse, is very important for the understanding of what bhakti is all about. This is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, founded in 1966 by our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And he came not to start something new, but to really plant in the Western world some seeds of a tree that had grown for thousands of years in India. This is this idea of bhakti yoga, which is the essence of the Vedas and the Puranas and all the Vedic writings. And bhakti yoga, simply put, means the process of linking with the Supreme God, through the process of loving devotion. And bhakti, if you look it up in the dictionary, which I have, the Sanskrit dictionary, you'll find that it means a reciprocal relationship. It's not just a one-sided thing. You only get 2 or 3 chances, and you've used 2 of them up. So, harekrishna. So bhakti means a reciprocation between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul of God. And Krishna speaks about that in this Bhagavad Gita. So one of the verses that deals with that is in the 9th chapter, verse 29. Some of you may know this verse, so I'll just let me start something here. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so this is verse 29 in the 9th chapter. Samohang sarvabhuteshu na me dveshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya maiteteshu chapyaham. So this is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, speaking to the friend and devotee Arjuna. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me in devotion is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Now the corresponding verse, which Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport, and which we'll also read, is in chapter 4, and it goes like this. Ye yatamam papadyante Tam statayava bhajamyaham mama vartmano vartante manushya parta sarvashaha. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. That's another name for Arjuna. So back to our original verse, and I'll read this purport. It's not very long, or the first paragraph anyway. One may question here that if Krishna is equal to everyone and no one is his special friend, then why does he take a special interest in the devotees who are always engaged in his devotional service? But this is not discrimination, it is natural. Anyone in this material world may be very charitably disposed, yet he has a special interest in his own children. The Lord claims that every living entity, in whatever form, is his son. And so he provides everyone with a generous supply of the necessities of life. He is just like a cloud that pours rain all over, regardless of whether it falls on rock or land or water. But for his devotees, he gives specific attention. Such devotees are mentioned here. They are always in Krishna consciousness, and therefore they are always transcendentally situated in Krishna. The very phrase Krishna consciousness suggests that those who are in such consciousness are living transcendentalists situated in him. The Lord says here distinctly, Mahite, they are in me. Naturally, as a result, the Lord is also in them. Now, what is this in? How can you be in someone else? The idea means that you're absorbed in thought of them, and that person is absorbed in thought of you, in your interests as well. This is the idea. And therefore he says, and here he quotes the other verse I quoted, this also explains the words, Ye yatama papadyante tamstadaiva bhajamyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotee are conscious living beings. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when the living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. I'm going to read that one more time so you don't miss it. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, there is no personalist philosophy. In other words, there's no bhakti. In the impersonal philosophy, there's no reciprocation between the Supreme and the living entity, but in the personalist philosophy, there is. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, these verses really kind of embody the essence of what bhakti is all about. And they're really a challenge to other, say, religious disciplines or sects, which may leave you wondering, well, I'm serving, I'm going to church, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why am I suffering? Why did my child get cancer? Why is there a war? Where is God? Have you forsaken us? You see? When you don't understand the A of the ABCs of transcendental knowledge, of Vedic wisdom, which is that we as living entities, who we really are eternal. Death is an illusion, as is birth. We for the actual person. Now, of course, death exists for the body, as well does birth. But the first lesson in Krishna consciousness is you're not that body. I remember walking through the door in Brooklyn Street, in the temple, and that was practically the third thing you heard. Prabhu, you're not that body. So therefore, don't complain and go, clean the floor, stuff like that. The point is is that we have to recognize that this body that we're in is no more significant ultimately than the clothes we're wearing. Prabhupada would talk about the shirt and the coat. Okay, so you think people, men usually wear shirt and coat. So what is it? The shirt is the inner body, called the subtle body. If you think about it, this is where you really live. In your mind, your emotions, right? That's where then things really happen. And then there's the body that we commonly call the body, the one we see in the mirror, the one that everyone sees. That's what they work reciprocally. They're going on. The body affects the mind affects the body, like that. But both of these bodies are separate from us. And that soul, as Krishna says at the beginning of this Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, Prabhupada quoted this one verse 1,000 times, Najayate mriyate vakadacham nayambud bhavavitavanabuya. For the soul, for the person, there is neither birth nor death at any time. It is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. The soul is not slain or dies when the body dies. Now, immediately this calls to mind, well, then what happens to the soul? Oh, then we have transmigration, reincarnation. Now, this idea has been around since I can remember in the West. And in the last 2 or 3 decades or more, there has developed even empirical evidence for this. For the basic idea, first of all, that the person can live separate from this physical body, Who hasn't heard of something that's called near-death experiences? Has anyone not heard of those? So everyone has heard of them. Now, if I had asked that question 30, 40 years ago, most hands would have gone up. But there is a large body of evidence. Many times it's compiled by, doctors, heart doctors in hospitals, who suddenly a patient, goes into arrest. We've all seen it. The emergency thing is going on, and everything is stopping, and everything is flatlining and pushing, and shocking and pumping in epinephrine, whatever they do, right, to try to revive you. A lot of times, I don't know the percentage. Most of the time, it may not work, but a few times it works, and the person he starts breathing again, and he's come out of it. Well, what was the experience of that person undergoing that operation? Sometimes they'll say, wow, I rose up to the ceiling and I was watching you guys. Yeah, can you tell? Yeah, so-and-so doctor came in and pumped in this and the nurse went out, and you can actually describe it. There have been books written about this. And then there's a whole other body of evidence. I remember we learned about him, when was it, in the late 70s, early 80s? This professor, I think he studied psychology in the University of Virginia or something, Ian Stevenson. And he had this idea, well, how can we, is there any evidence for reincarnation? And there's a certain number, you can get onto YouTube and find probably thousands of them now. Little kids, most of them in India, but not all of them. There's one very famous one in America who remembers that he was a bomber pilot in World War II. And his Methodist parents just said, yeah, right. But he kept insisting on it and giving details, and finally said, well, let's check this out. And sure enough, there was a bomber pilot of that name. He was flying this particular plane. He crashed, and here's this kid who's saying, "That's me." The point is that there are certain instances where the bridge becomes evident between the last life and the present life. It's empirical. Now, that's no mystery for someone who reads the Bhagavad Gita. That's just confirming what Krishna is saying here. Now, does everyone see how critical that is to understanding the whole, what is destiny, what should we work for, what is the meaning of our life? The fact that we have a huge history in different bodies, and that we have a future in more bodies, and that this is just one short chapter in a very long book. So doesn't that change your perspective on what the meaning of this life is and what you should strive for? The basic lesson of all this is that we should strive to end this process. It's not something just to think about and think, well, far out. But really, we're going through it as we speak, and it's not something to really relish. It's a punishment. Because we ourselves are eternal, but we keep going through these temporary bodies, suffering old age and disease and death. And then the other part of this, which is not so obvious, is that every single living being out there, including all the insects and the trees and the plants and everything else, and the fish, they also have souls. They are occupying a certain kind of body, and those bodies eventually die, and then they go on to another body, another body, another body, and they eventually come up to the human form. Now, this is not something that can be empirically proven, but this we get from the Vedic literature. They all agree. Now, what does that mean? That means that the human form is a special form with special responsibilities and a special opportunity to practice the disciplines of yoga, specifically bhakti yoga, that are defined in the Bhagavad Gita and other books, and that give us a way of ending this process. This is the basic aspiration for anyone who accepts the Vedas as authority in the Vedic culture and Vedic wisdom. So now back to our verses. Here, Krishna is speaking specifically about the process of developing, or let's say reawakening, our relationship with Him. And by doing that, getting the blessings of His reciprocation. And he says it's just like a friend, I mean, did you ever have this experience? I remember 3rd grade, 2nd grade. Well, I'll be your friend if you'll be mine, like that. Perfectly natural. Or someone who's obviously not your friend, and you give them the cold shoulder or whatever. It's just natural that people relate to each other in that way. What is love but some kind of bond in which you have an interest in pleasing the person and reciprocation, and there's something going on there, right? There's a reciprocation. As soon as that reciprocation is broken for whatever reason, then the relationship becomes strained, right? So Krishna is saying that I have a relationship with every single living entity, every one. Now most of them, or say the vast majority, certainly subhuman, they have no chance of even understanding that primary relationship. So they're simply coming up through the species until we eventually get to the human form. Now in this form, we have an opportunity to start reciprocating with Krishna. Now just think of it this way. How do we live from day to day? Krishna mentions that in the 3rd chapter. How do we live? We need so many things. We need food, we need air, right? We need safety. The body is going through so many things that it needs to maintain itself. So where is that all coming from? It's all coming from God. In other words, we're already receiving so many benedictions we don't even recognize. But why does he do that? We're the rebellious ones. The whole philosophy is that we're exiles here, fallen, just like in the Bible, fallen from heaven. But heaven is not, what we call heaven. It's a material thing. From the spiritual world, we were there, and we've decided to turn our back and try another thing, try to see if we could go it alone in this material world. So that's what this world is. It's it's something I recently. Has anyone here heard about these new deep fakes? Have you heard about them? Wow, it's so new. Deep fakes. Okay, well, when I read about this, I said, this is very interesting because it relates to how Maya works and convinces us we're something we're not. Deep fakes are video manipulations that will take, say, someone's voice and video and paste it onto someone else. You heard of that? Where they have Obama saying something that Obama would never say, But it can be devastating. You can imagine the mischief that can be done with this. You're going along nicely and someone says, "Oh, I saw you, robbing that bank. They caught you on video. Did you know that? What are you talking about? I never robbed a bank. Yeah, I saw, This is what they can do with the video now. Now think about it. This whole material world is a really deep fake, right? We're not the bodies, but who isn't convinced that we are the body? If someone asks who you are, okay, myself, yeah, I'm 71-year-old white American male. Yeah, where were you born? Oh, I was born in New York. This and that. On and on and on. That's who I am. But now we know from practice, no, that's not who I am. That's what this body is. And it's very temporary, and in a very fairly short time, I'll have no relationship with that body, and I'll have some other identity. So who am I really? But if you're convinced that that's who you are, you see, Maya has pulled a deep fake on you. You're not that at all. But it's such a skilled presentation, nobody knows unless you come in contact with this philosophy. That's not who I am. Then one way asks, well, who am I really? What is my function? How can I discover who I really am? And that's what Krishna consciousness is all about. There's another book that we have, which is said to be the postgraduate book, which is Srila Prabhupada gave us the ABCs of the Bhagavad Gita, and he gave us the graduate book of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then he gave us the postgraduate called the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So Krishna came in this age. It's said that God doesn't come in this age, in the Kali Yuga. This is called the Kali Yuga. It's an age of iron, not so good for yoga and meditation. A lot of disturbance. Kali means quarrel, fighting, war. But we need the instruction. We need help in this age also. So Krishna comes in this age in what is said to be the most munificent form, where he gives the process that's so easy. In previous ages, you had to meditate for thousands of years. You had to practice elaborate sacrifices. You had to deity worship. Here we have our wonderful deities, Radha Hari and Gauranitai and Jagannath Baladev Subhadraji, and there's Giri Govardhan also smiling at us, But in ages gone by, we'd have to have genuine gold, diamonds, huge temple, hundreds of Brahmins, Where are you going to get all that now? It can't happen. That was the previous age. So what are we going to do in this age? We have practically nothing. We don't live very long. We're disturbed, you know. So Lord Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us this simple process. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it. That's the process. If you take it totally to heart and you understand, there's of course a way of doing it to perfect it. But that's the basic process. Anyone, anytime, any place could chant. Not anyone, any place, any time can chant the Vedas or practice these things, or certainly practice meditation. Have you tried meditating in New York? You don't realize. I used to live in Manhattan, in the temple in Manhattan. There was always a background noise going on, 24 hours a day. The street noise, punctuated by shouts and some shots, going off. And this is no quiet, and the ether is so disturbed. How can you meditate? So, but you can chant Hare Krishna. We used to go down Fifth Avenue, They just had a Rath Yatra a couple of days ago, right? Very successful. Do you know that Tulsi Gabbard was there? And she was chanting Hare Krishna? She's a congresswoman running for president. We can all pray, really. I'm hoping she gets the vice presidential nomination with Bernie Sanders as the president. That won't be long. She'll be in the presidency. Anyway, so... Anyway, I don't want to bring politics into it. But it's such a wonderful thing. I wasn't there for the first one. Were you there for the first one in 76, Guru Krishna? No. Was anyone here? You were there. See, Sampata was there. Sorry. That was Srila Prabhupada. You were there too? Going down Fifth Avenue. 10 years earlier, he starts the Krishna consciousness movement in a little storefront in 26 Second Avenue. No money, no followers. His visa's running out. He practically is ready to go back to India, but it takes root, and then he goes to Haight-Ashbury, where the right in the middle of the Summer of Love, 1967, and the whole the more seeds are planted, and the thing takes off. And then 10 years later, he's riding down the cart. There's these big carts with deities in Fifth Avenue. It's such a wonderful victory. And there was Jayananda in front of the cart, it's wonderful. So thousands of people chanting, doing this yoga process. So Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. He came to give this process, most munificent. Because the end of all of this process is love. It's pure love, prema, for Krishna, which includes everything else. This liberation that I was talking about, that's a byproduct. You'll definitely be liberated. But more importantly, you'll be in your original position, reinstated in your original position in relation to God. So he gave this process of chanting, and he taught a very simple thing. What is your real nature? We should understand it. We're not the body, so what am I then? What is my swarup? What is my real form? What is my real function? Who am I? So, sorry about that. It's reminding me of something. I'm always forgetting. So he says, Jivera Swarupoi Krishna Nityadas. This is the very important answer he gave to one of his disciples' questions. Who am I? So this word Swarup is important. Rupa simply means form. And Swa means my own actual form, which includes the function, what I do. Is every jiva, human beings and any other jiva there may be, the actual form or actual function is to be a servant of Krishna, loving servant of Krishna. And don't forget Prabhupada's purport here. Krishna becomes the devotees of his devotees. So as you love Krishna and you serve him, Krishna loves you and he serves you in the way that you just need to become closer to him and to be situated in devotional service. And how did Krishna serve us? Back in 1965, he inspired Srila Prabhupada to get on a boat, which is just a very simple, what is it called? A freighter, not really designed for passengers. So he had and he went on that trip without any money. He got sick. He almost died. A couple of heart attacks. So Krishna sent him to come to give this process purely so that we could awaken to it. So that's how Krishna is reciprocating with us. He's coming as the holy name. He's coming as the deity, as the prasadam. He's giving us a chance to reach him, to perceive and to experience his presence, and to learn through the books and the wisdom given by his great devotees like Srila Prabhupada, and of course the Shastra or the scripture. So Krishna is making himself available. And if we take advantage of these gifts, then we can start the process by which we can awaken to our actual nature and get out of this deep, deep fake, which is our false identification with these physical bodies and these mental bodies, which aren't us. This is the thing. So, samoham sarvabhuteshu, I am equal to all. I am reciprocating with everyone as they approach me. Many of these souls have no idea, or no chance, those who are below the human form. But those who are human beings, and that includes everyone in this room, have the opportunity to deepen this understanding and to practice. There has to be a practice because the whole thing is the mind, the consciousness. Our minds have been conditioned to identify with something we're not, and to act on that basis, and to become entangled in this world through the attractions and repulsions of this world. All of that is a big illusion, which we finally realize too late at the time of death, when it all goes away and we go on our next chapter, you see. But we can stop this process by taking those attachments and all of our entanglement with this world and gradually sublimating them and endearing them toward Krishna. Just for instance, take eating. We all have to eat. It's necessary to maintain the body. So eating can be a process of further entanglement in this world, or it can be, there's a way of doing it that it begins to take us out of this world. Normally, if we don't know anything, we become victimized by the big agricultural companies. They have scientists who are figuring out how to produce artificial foods, very highly processed foods, to attract your taste buds, and so you become addicted, literally addicted to these foods. And you don't know why. Why am I always hungry? You know? You think, well, I have freedom. I can get Doritos, or I can get these chips, or I can get that chips, you know. But it's all within the realm of being controlled, you know, not eating naturally. And what to speak of all of the meat and the meat products is totally unnecessary. I'm living proof. You can be a vegetarian and be healthy. That's 45 years down the road now. Actually, I'm no longer a vegetarian and even a devotee, you know. And I'm surviving. Fine. So it's completely unnecessary. All of that killing of the cows, you know, which implicates us tremendously in what we call sinful activity, which produces suffering, tremendous suffering. All these wars that are going on, Srila Prabhupada explained, you know, a lot of it has to do with all of the cow slaughter and the chicken slaughter and billions like that. Totally unnecessary. So we can stay aloof from that, not just by becoming vegetarians, but becoming prasadamarians. Because prasadam means offering nicely prepared vegetarian food prepared with love for Krishna, offering it, then taking the remnants. And you see how that's just an act of reciprocal love with Krishna? And you completely lose your taste for all this other food. That's like the first thing that happens when you join the temple. Whoa, I can give that up pretty easy, you know. So the Krishna consciousness is a scientific process of transforming our heart and our mind so that it's purified and focused on the transcendence, focused on Krishna and reciprocation. And the wonderful thing is it's completely personal. It's personal with Krishna, with all of his devotees. Everything is personal. And as Krishna says, as you surrender him, he reciprocates. And what is that reciprocation? The first, you know, there's a certain peace that comes over. You know, there's so much anxiety today. I mean, you open some of Prabhupada's books, it's like he could have written this as a headline from today's newspaper. When the executive head of a nation, country, you know, is completely controlled by the modes of nature, becomes completely he doesn't do any benefit for the people, he just exploits them. This is in the Bhagavatam 12th canto. describing the different kings and the different leaders who will simply exploit the people and cause wars and things like that. It's happening today all around us. How can we live in this world without getting completely disturbed just by hearing the news? The answer is not just not to listen to the news. The answer is to attain an inner peace and an inner ballast, if you will, by the process of devotional service, knowing full well that no matter what happens, and you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, and you read about Prahlad Maharaj and other great devotees who underwent tremendous tribulation, but remained calm and steady because they were completely connected and focused on their relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that's available to us, especially through developing our chanting of the holy name, both individually, and I did bring my japa beads, and collectively. The primary process of the age, called the Yuga Dharma, is this congregational chanting, which we'll do in a few minutes again. But as well, Krishna says, of sacrifices, I am the chanting of japa. Japa is this individual chanting, which Lord Chaitanya also showed and did himself, on these beads, which are just like a rosary. There's 108 beads. These are made of special holy wood, tulsi plant that has died naturally. And we chant meditatively, generally early in the morning. Some of you have been here early in the morning. And you can see at 5:15, without fail, we start our japa period. And we go to our little corners, little spots. Everybody's got his favorite spot. And chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the whole idea is to chant distinctly and just hear, just to absorb oneself in that transcendental sound. It's totally supernatural. It can't be explained how it is that the Supreme Godhead can manifest himself in sound, and you can associate and become purified simply by chanting that mantra. Now, there are many, I don't want to say rules and regulations, but there are different principles for achieving perfection in the chanting. But anyone can begin chanting. There's no rules or regulations, no hard and fast rules, and benefit from it. And gradually, you can experience the benefits, even instantaneously, depending on your absorption of the mind. The whole idea is to just hear and chant. So that process is central to this practice. And someone suggested that I had a few poems, so I'll just share a couple of them that I wrote about the holy name. Not that I wrote originally, but are based on the verses. One of the verses that Sanskrit verses that devotees learn early on, if they're interested in learning verses, is this one, because it's real easy, and I'll tell you can tell why as soon as I chant it. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, kalo nasjeva, gatadanyata. There's only about 3 different words in that verse. So this is a very important verse from a Purana called the Brihanaradiya, which Lord Chaitanya quoted himself, and more or less as the theme of his whole preaching movement. So what it says is that if you want to achieve, let's go. Yeah, if you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found. But to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow. So I had to make it come out even. I added a little bit, but I think it was okay. So the idea is that in this particular age, you're not going to achieve it by Ashtanga yoga, by Raja yoga meditation. You're not going to achieve it by doing good works. You certainly won't achieve it by any other material process. First of all, you have to know what that gati is, the supreme goal. And as I mentioned, the preliminary description is breaking free from the bondage of birth and death, this wheel of samsara, which we, the soul, have been going through since time immemorial. But by Krishna's grace, we've forgotten. Can you imagine the PTSD we'd have if we remembered all those deaths and everything we had to go through? That's a blessing, forgetfulness. But it's completely unnecessary and superfluous to the soul. But because we've forgotten our real nature, we're identifying with this body made of mucus and bile and bones and blood, which we're not. And so we need to get free of that false identification, that deep fake that's been imposed upon us by the Maya Devi, and act in our real nature, and by this chanting, awaken to our real function and to Krishna's blessings. So that's the one verse. There's another one that is very nice. It's described by Haridas Thakur, how chanting even once purely can liberate you from this bondage. And there was one Brahmin who doubted that in the discussion. He says, that can't be true, and because it's not true, I'm going to cut off your nose. This is a great offense against the great Haridas Thakur. And he was immediately kicked out by the Majumdars. And they asked Haridas Thakur to please explain this truth. So he quoted this verse. Now, Sanskrit is an amazing language. It's original language. The very word Sanskrit, our scholars can tell me if I'm right or wrong, means that perfectly composed, the very languages. So so the Sanskrit has something called chanda, meter, which is far beyond anything you can find in any other language. So I'm just kind of as an introduction. Here's the verse that he quoted. Ang hak sang hadadakilang sakadudaya deva sakalalokasya tadaniti vatamila jalading jayachita mangalang hare nama. Have you ever heard anything in English like that? No. So here's the verse, and Haridas Thakur's little purport to it that I put into this little poem. When the moon is invisible, now you have to take yourself back 500 years. There's no electricity. When the sun goes down, then basically everyone takes rest. You know, there's great darkness, especially if there's no moon. But when the sun is invisible, withered to nil, and the sun is long gone from the sky, then an ocean of darkness envelops this world, and the timorous fear they might die. But that thick pall of gloom is at once swept away when the first signs of sunrise appear, and the dawning of day gives assurance to all that in truth there is nothing to fear. In a similar way, when illusion holds sway, and the soul has forgotten his Lord, then the darkness of ignorance covers his heart. Sin and suffering are his reward. But as soon as he chants Krishna's name even once, in a manner that doesn't offend, then his ignorance flees like the darkness at dawn, and his sin and his suffering end. So there's nothing to fear, for the sun of the name has appeared with his powers divine. In your heart may that sun, benedictive for all, become fixed and eternally shine. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So that's Lord Chaitanya's prayer also. He's coming and giving the holy name, says, please fix this name in your heart. Take advantage of it. Learn about it. We have our book, Chant and Be Happy, Bhagavad Gita, so many instructions that describe how the Krishna is, if he's God, if he's all-powerful, why can't he appear through his holy name? And he does. He appears through his holy name and in the form of his holy name, and many other ways, reaching out to us and inviting us to take part in this wonderful process of bhakti yoga. And it works. It's been proven. It's now over 50 years this movement has been on. Many other gogis and bogies have come and gone, but Krishna consciousness keeps going because it's authentic. And people every day are discovering the benefits. And it works, you know. The chanting actually works if you take part in it. So we invite you to do so. So we have a few minutes for questions, and then I'll try to provide any answers. Otherwise, I'm going to lay a couple more poems on you. Yes, Dhanavari has a question. Can we have a mic, or should I just? Okay, I'll repeat your question. Promise. But you have to say it so at least I can hear it. Yes. Okay. So the question, that first lesson, you're not the body. How do you realize that? because it's not easy. Everybody around you is dealing with you as if you are the body, right? And that's the problem, is that association. Is that if this is why association with devotees is so important. Because there's something called conditioning, which I think we can easily understand. It's simply the sum total of all the habits of thought and action that produce a certain conception that we have of ourselves. And this is and how we deal with others. So it's important to be in the association of devotees, of those who are aware that they're not the body and are not going to deal with you as the body, and rather are engaging you in devotional service, and you're glorifying the Lord on the transcendental platform. This is difficult. This is one of the challenges of being Krishna conscious out there, obviously, because you have to work, you have to go to school, you have to deal with a lot of people who aren't devotees, and who are going to be, dealing with you on a material level. So this is where the importance of, as I said, association and strong sadhana comes in. Sadhana is a practice that we perform in order to get to a goal, sadhya. It doesn't just pertain to spiritual practices or yoga practice. It pertains to everything. Suppose we want to become a guitar player, I mean, when I was a kid, a lot of people want to become guitar. I didn't have that desire. Well, you can't just, pick up a guitar and start strumming away and expect to become a guitar player. You have to learn the methods of learning how playing the guitar. So you find a teacher, you get a book, to help you. Nowadays you get online, But really it helps if you can find someone else and associate, if you're amongst other students, So it's a practice. At the end of that practice, that sadhya, that sadhana is your sadhya. Oh, now I'm playing nicely guitar, and maybe I'll get a contract, make a record, whatever, So that's your goal. So we have abundant and very effective and scientifically arranged sadhana. Specifically, that's been given by Rupa Goswami and other followers of Lord Chaitanya, and then passed on to us by Srila Prabhupada. So in order to transcend the bodily concept of life and really get it, we need to spend as many minutes of the day sincerely performing that sadhana and perfecting it, centered on the chanting of the holy name, but not exclusively so. How about our home? We have freedom in our home. Whatever pictures we want to put up on there, the wall, the sounds we want to hear, the foods we want to cook, how clean we want to keep it, So they should be as clean as possible. Get down all the nonsense pictures, and what do you put on the TV, turn it off, throw it away, So the idea is that we have certain decisions to make that sometimes are a little painful because we're so habituated, giving up something, giving up this, giving up that, and taking on that. This is what sadhana is. This is why it's discipline. That's why it's something called disciples. If we want to advance in this path, keeping our eyes on the goal, as we used to say in the civil rights movement, keep your eyes on the prize, right? Because there's a lot of suffering between now and then. There's a lot of work to do, and austerity. But the prize is, liberation, freedom, whatever. But so our prize is not just liberation from body concept, but immersing ourselves in an ocean of unending and ever-increasing bliss. What could be more desirable than that? It sounds mythical because we never experienced anything like that. But that's what bhakti is about. That's why it's important to hear about the lives of the great devotees and to become acquainted with Krishna's pastimes. What's actually going on in the spiritual world. Now, the faith in all of this is founded on our founder Acharya. In other words, by associating with the founder Acharya, with Srila Prabhupada, how? Through his books, through the audio. There's somebody wonderful, to hear the voice is important also. But that increases our faith because the material energy is always trying to undermine. And it says, what are you doing? You've been doing this for so long. What do you got out of it? And so they come here, do this, do that, So to stay strong, association, hearing, chanting, becoming, if possible, becoming initiated by getting serious, taking vows. We need every help we can get in order to stay on the path, because Maya Devi is always trying to pull us off, So that's the answer, is that by strong sadhana, good association, seriousness, we can stay convinced that we're not the body and act in our real nature as devotees of Krishna. The more we do things and think things and hear the transcendental sound that are directly related to Krishna, the more we'll be convinced, yes, this is who I really am, and this is who I'm going to, live my life in this direction. It's a struggle, admittedly, but it's the noblest struggle there is to attain that platform and to become a force for giving it to others, because this is the only way this world's going to be saved. If it's going to be saved, it's not going to be by some material concoction or some idea or conquering this or doing that. It's going to be saved by a revolution in consciousness. A revolution in consciousness. Tad bhagava sargo janataga viplavo. Right in the Bhagavatam at the beginning. Viplava means capsizing the boat, literally. In other words, a revolution in consciousness. That's what Srila Prabhupada came to start, and that's what's going on, and that's what it's all about. And in our own lives, it's the most benevolent or beneficial revolution there can be. So kind of a long answer to your short question. I'm sorry. Hare Krishna. Okay, it's 5 minutes to 7. Yes.
Can you also mention, how some of the classes you give during the week here at the temple?
Yeah, we have classes every day. In the morning at 7:50 till about 8:35, we have a Srimad Bhagavatam class, except on Monday when we have an Isha Upanishad class. I myself give a bunch of classes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. We have Bhagavad Gita class at 7:15, until 8:15, and we're now in the middle of the 4th chapter. You're welcome to join us, or they come online. You can ask Janardhan how to do that. In the morning, the classes are given by various devotees. I give class Monday, Wednesday, and when Bhadri Narayan Maharaj is not here, on Sunday. Then we have Balaram Prabhu gives class, Mukunda Charan Prabhu gives class, Dharma Setu gives class on Tuesdays. So every morning is a class. You can find it personally or online. And these classes Srila Prabhupada insisted on, because it keeps us, the intelligence is the key, is to keep the intelligence enlivened by the philosophy and the pastimes of Krishna's avatars and devotees, so that we can maintain our faith and our understanding of what we're doing, because it is far out. I mean, admittedly, the whole philosophy is not you can't understand it just by figuring it out on your own, but it's part of a genuine, wonderful tradition, and the fact that in spite of all the difficulties ISKCON has had over the years, and there's that it's real and it's survived and it's flourishing throughout the world. So we do have classes every day at 7:15, 7:30 in the lounge. There's a wonderful program called the lounge program, which is mostly on chanting, and there's also talk and free prasadam there, vegan prasadam. So there's something every day, every morning and evening. We can just check out our website, which you'll give yeah. Okay, so you had a question there?
Your Bhagavad Gita classes are here?
Right here. Yeah, at 7:15 in the evening, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah, everyone's welcome. And we have kirtan, 8:15, and then prasad, free prasad, mahaprasad. If we have hundreds, then everyone will get a little teaspoon. But if you have, mostly it's to maybe a dozen. If we have a dozen, it's a huge crowd. But there's always plenty for all if you have that. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.